The sound is small, a key on a shoelace, knocking against a sternum with every step home from the bus stop. You hear it before you see the house. Empty. Curtains still drawn for morning. And you already know the routine because it's not the first time. You dig for the key. You let yourself in. You lock the door behind you because that's what you were told to do, and you sit with the silence of a house that won't have another voice in it for 3 more hours. You were 9, maybe 8. You learned to heat up something on the stove without burning the kitchen down. You learned to do your homework with the television on for company, because company was better than nothing. And somewhere in that quiet you learned the one lesson that would follow you for the next 40 years. If you didn't fix it yourself, it wouldn't get fixed. Nobody was coming. So you stopped waiting for anyone to come. That belief didn't stay in childhood. It grew up with you. It sat next to you at your first job, telling you to never ask your boss for help, because needing help looked like weakness. It sat next to you in your marriage, keeping you quiet about how tired you actually were. And it's sitting next to you right now as an adult who still, on some level, believes that the only person who's really going to show up for you is you. We need to go back and understand where this came from, because it wasn't random. It was built. In the 1970s and 80s, something shifted in the American home that hadn't shifted in generations before it. Divorce rates climbed sharply. Dual-income households became the norm, not the exception, as families tried to keep up with the changing economy. And for the first time at scale, an entire generation of children came home to nobody. They called you Latchkey Kids. Clinical, almost dismissive, as if a key around a child's neck was simply a logistics problem to be solved rather than an emotional one. The television became the babysitter. Cereal became dinner more nights than anyone wants to admit. And you figured out, quickly, that your parents weren't being neglectful monsters. They were exhausted. They were working 2 jobs, or working through a divorce, or working through the quiet collapse of a marriage that nobody in the house talked about. Your loneliness wasn't cruelty. It was fallout. But a child doesn't understand systemic economic shifts. A child only understands one thing. I'm alone, and I have to handle this. And that's where hyper-independence was born. Not as a personality trait, as a trauma response. Here's what almost nobody tells you about that response. I'm fine wasn't a phrase. It was a survival skill. When you're 8 years old, and there's no one to hear you say you're scared, you learn to stop saying it because saying it out loud and having no one answer is worse than staying silent. So silence became safety, self-reliance became identity, and needing someone started to feel dangerous. That childhood coping mechanism didn't stay small. It scaled up with your responsibilities. Now it looks like burnout you never mention. Now it looks like carrying a crushing week at work and telling your partner, it's whatever, I've got it. Now it looks like sitting in your car for 10 minutes before you walk into the house, just to hold yourself together for 1 more hour. If you grew up unlocking your own front door, heating up your own dinner, and solving your own problems before your parents got home from work, comment the word key below and tell us the age you had to start growing up. Because here's the second shift nobody warned you about. You didn't just survive that childhood. You became the generation holding 2 households up at once. You're the sandwich generation now. Aging parents on one side who suddenly need the care you never got. Kids on the other side who you're desperately trying to raise differently than you were raised, even if you're not always sure how. And in the middle of all of it is you. Still doing what you were trained to do at 8 years old. Handling it. Quietly. Alone. You show up for everyone. You are the emergency contact, the fixer, the one who doesn't need to be checked on. And somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a question you don't let yourself finish. What happens to the person holding everyone else up when they finally run out of strength? We're going to answer that, but first, sit with this one. When was the last time you actually admitted to someone, out loud, that you couldn't handle everything alone? Not hinted at it, not joked about it, actually said the words. For a lot of you, the honest answer is, you can't remember. And that's not a character flaw. That's the imprint of a childhood that taught you help doesn't come, so you stopped asking for it. But here's the quiet, important truth underneath all of this. The little kid who unlocked that door alone didn't need to be more capable. They needed someone to notice. And the adult you are now still carries that same simple need, buried under 30 years of "I've got it." Strength was never supposed to mean doing everything alone. That was just the only version of strength available to you at the time. Real strength, the kind you're allowed to have now, looks like letting one person carry a small piece of what you've been holding since you were a child. It looks like saying, "I'm struggling," and staying in the room after you say it. You broke nothing by surviving that childhood, but you don't have to keep living inside it. And if you're ready to understand how that silence gets passed down, without you ever meaning to pass it down, to the kids who are watching you right now, learning what strength looks like just by watching you never ask for help, that's exactly where we're going next.